Here's three price scenarios when it comes to ICP that I'm thinking about right now, even though nothing I say is financial advice. And the first one I want to talk about is the idea of, let's say, hypothetically $80. Now that's around a 16.5x from here, and market cap at that point would be around $43 billion. However, to me, why doesn't this sound maybe too outlandish if it, let's say, were to happen during a bull run? Let's say we see one for altcoins this cycle. Well, let me explain why. When it comes to the internet computer, I'm a fan of it because I think it's heading in the right direction, I think fundamentally speaking. Like when I was first believing in the internet computer, kind of the main narrative that a lot of my friends were talking about is that, hey, this is a project that's trying to decentralize the internet. And I'm still a fan of the internet computer in that sense because that is kind of what really interested me to the internet computer in the first place. However, we have to take a look at the progression that's made so far. Like, for instance, the Solana integration, which I think is massive because, of course, Solana, a very popular layer 1 blockchain. Not to mention, we take a look at how the internet computer and what it did with Bitcoin DeFi. Not to mention as well, we take a look at also Caffeine AI, which I think is actually a pretty major victory for kind of the vibe overall when it comes to the project, because Caffeine AI is allegedly the world's first ever self-writing apps platform. And I think this is really awesome because imagine, right, let's say we see a lot of these, chat services or whatever using AI, but then at the same time, when I take a look at making applications, couldn't AI help with that maybe as well? So if I'm assuming that there's going to be more applications that are going to pop up moving forward, if I assume that, this space could very well kind of adopt AI in a pretty good way, why wouldn't I think that maybe Caffeine AI could maybe, in a sense, arguably, be of use to hypothetical developers moving forward that do want to make applications? So I like that. When it comes to Dfinity, I think they're doing a pretty good job so far. However, to me as well, fundamentally, what I like about the internet computer beyond all that is that supposedly the average cost per instruction on the internet computer is over 40 million times less expensive than Ethereum, which is kind of mind-blowing for me to even think about. However, even besides that point, supposedly for $1 worth of smart contract data on Ethereum, allegedly there can be had around 44 bytes. However, when it comes to the internet computer, supposedly for that exact same price, over 200 million bytes. That's a massive difference, allegedly. So then, at the same time, I really like the internet computer overall. Not to mention, the internet computer can allegedly connect Web 2 and Web 3 without oracles. Why do I think it's a major victory? Because if we take a look at an oracle, what is it? It's basically a data feed that brings data from off the chain, aka off-chain data, and it brings that data over into the blockchain. The reason why this is even necessary, in my opinion, is because if we take a look at many decentralized applications out there, without off-chain data, they can't function properly. So I kind of view it as somewhat a backbone for a lot of decentralized applications out there. And if we take a look at very famous projects that are focused on kind of this oracle aspect, we take a look at something like Chainlink, which is very popular, right? Heavily focused on oracles. We take a look at the Pyth network, right? Pyth, also pretty popular, not as popular as Chainlink, but it's still pretty popular. We also take a look at Flare. It has the Flare time series oracle. And that's just a few examples right there, but we've seen kind of how massive Flare is. We've seen how massive Pyth, became, right? We've seen how massive Chainlink is right now. So then if we take a look at that, and supposedly the internet computer can connect Web 2 and Web 3 without oracles, bypassing that process quite essentially, could you imagine that, kind of thing right there could very well be game-changing. Now, is it going to make Chainlink, Pyth, or something like Flare to be a little bit kind of obsolete in the Oracle aspect side of things when it comes to their projects? I highly doubt that because, of course, they're already very massive in the grand scheme of things, but then I still like that nonetheless when it comes to the internet computer, and it kind of showcases the way I would view it as somewhat being a little bit ahead of its time, because imagine, right, being able to connect Web 2 and Web 3 without oracles. We take a look at kind of the aspect of Caffeine AI, and I think Dfinity did a great job overall when it comes to the whole vibe, right? And also besides that, we take a look at Solana and ICP integration. I mean, there's a lot of things that I'm excited for, which is why overall I'm a fan of the project. And I think something that has a dedicated community with good fundamentals, with good exchange listings, which I hypothetically do have that on my mind when it comes to ICP, something of that, I would say, sort of level, maybe reaching $80 during a fully fledged type of altcoin season wouldn't surprise me if, let's say, it were to happen during this cycle. Now, the next scenario I want to talk about is $90. Now, that's around an 18.5x from here, and market cap at that point would be around 48 billion. Like, for instance, we've seen Dogecoin exceed that market cap by around 40 billion. That was like back in 2021. I'm not necessarily saying that this is going to be more popular than Dogecoin or whatever, because of course Dogecoin is more popular right now, and I think even after the cycle is over, I still think Dogecoin is going to be more popular. But then, like, we have to consider that market cap. I think maybe, arguably, in my perspective, doesn't seem like too supposedly outlandish to me. Not to mention, we have to kind of consider the substance, right? Like the use case, for instance, Dogecoin compared to the internet computer. Again, I'm not saying that it's going to be more popular than that, but then at least achieving a glimpse of what it did years ago. I'm not saying maybe what could Dogecoin achieve this cycle. I'm saying, again, what it achieved back in 2021. That doesn't seem too outlandish in my mind, but only time will tell. Now, the third and final price scenario I want to take a look at is maybe the idea of $100. Around a 20x from here, market cap considering current circulating supply would be nearly $54 billion. Now, why wouldn't this surprise me? It's because I actually like the factors right now a lot better when compared to back then in 2021. Let me explain why. In the peak of the 2021 bull run, around 300 million crypto owners. Currently, supposedly, we have over 600 million. And keep in mind, this is, again, supposedly more than ever before in history. And we have this right now. This isn't a projection maybe 10 months later or something. This is what we have right now. And if we have this many right now, what would the amount of crypto owners look like if Bitcoin was at 250, let's say, grand, right? Or 200 or 300, whatever. Or let's say Ethereum is at like 10 grand. If there was like more than 700 million maybe crypto owners at that point, it wouldn't surprise me, especially considering, again, right now we have over 600 million. But this is just my mindset. So with kind of that many new crypto owners when compared to back then, kind of the Bitcoin ETF, the Ethereum ETF, sort of the positive sentiment, arguably, I would say that it brings to the whole space overall, $100 wouldn't be something too surprising to me, but only time will tell. And whenever the altcoin season does really, I think, happen in a fully fledged type of way during this cycle, it's going to be beyond my control. However, at least I can take a look back in history and see how usually altcoins, as a worst case scenario, they sort of typically peak around 18 months after a Bitcoin halving event. So 18 months from the last Bitcoin halving event back in April of last year would mean October this year, give or take. I don't think it's going to be accurate, maybe 100% exactly like that, arguably, because that is based off history, but who knows, right? I mean, we're not in October yet. But at the same time, if let's say it happens later, like November, December, Q1 of next year in 2026, whatever the timeline is, I'm still going to stay patient because, quite frankly, that's the only thing I can control. All I'm doing is just, again, holding and waiting. That's it. I treat it like a marathon. It's not a sprint to me. So I just want to stay consistent and hold. And that's pretty much it. And feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I greatly appreciate it. It's been Lee the Captain. I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.